Time is now 7:09. Does Boris Johnson have a new strand of disquiet about his leadership to contend with? A donor who has given significant sums to the Conservative Party has been giving his view to the BBC, specifically to our political editor, Laura Kuenssberg, who's on the line now. Laura, who is he, this particular donor, and what is his view?
Good morning, Michelle. Well, John Armitage is a hedge fund boss. He's an extremely wealthy, extremely successful financier. He's perhaps not a tribal Tory. He's not someone who seeks the political limelight. And if you look back over the years, he's not somebody who's strayed into the political debate very often. He has also, it's worth saying, given some small donations to Labour of late. But Mr Armitage has given the Conservatives more than £3 million in recent years, including more than £500,000 during Boris Johnson's time in charge. He's still a member of the party, and I think his very candid words are going to hurt. He told me the state of play in politics was incredibly distressing. After Partygate and the fiasco of recent months, he suggested that Boris Johnson's time was up. I asked him if he thought that we had the very serious and engaged politicians he thinks the country requires.
I feel politicians should go into politics to do good for their country. And that is the overwhelming reason to be in politics. I don't think it's about your own personal sense of getting to the top of a snakes and ladder game. And I feel that if you lose moral authority and if you do things which, the average person, your mother, someone you try to explain, someone who you admire, if you do something or say something which on the front page of the Sunday Times looks terrible, and you do that consistently, and you betray a sense of not really caring, I think you should leave. And I find the lack of honour inherent in modern politics incredibly distressing.
Now, Mr Armitage told me he believes Boris Johnson's leadership is past the point of return. He said he has told the Conservative Party he won't be giving them any more money as things stand, although it's interesting he wants to stay a member so that he still has a say over what next. In terms of what he thinks might be next, he said there were some politicians in the current cabinet who were competent, but he declined to name anyone he'd like to see in charge. And this was interesting, Michelle. Of course, in the last few days, we've been talking a lot, haven't we, about how Number 10 has been trying hard to show how things are changing. One Number 10 source said to me that Mr Armitage was behind the times. But I asked him for his take on Boris Johnson's attempt recently to clean up what's been happening in Number 10.
I don't know people in Downing Street. I'm not close to the situation. But I think it's about more than... But if, I'm failing, I've done a few things wrong, oh gosh, I'm going to change my advisors. God above. What about a sense of personal responsibility? I'm going to change my chief of staff and it'll all be fine. Well, really?
John Armitage there. And Laura, on the reshuffle, which we've just had, of course, has there been a Downing Street response to this criticism of a Mark Spencer moving to a prestigious role of leader of the House of Commons, much more public-facing role than the one he had at Chief Whip, given that we have this investigation into alleged Islamophobia underway?
Well, Number 10 have placed their faith in Mark Spencer by keeping him in the cabinet and putting him in a role where he'll be more publicly heard from, he'll be more visible, he'll also have a role in maintaining standards in Parliament. And it's that in particular that has got some MPs very upset about this, because there is an investigation, as you referred to, into what happened between him and the Conservative female MP, Nuskari. And one MP really was spitting chips about this yesterday and said to me, Number 10 promised change. Nothing has changed. The Prime Minister has just made things worse. But by moving the chess pieces around in the way that Boris Johnson has yesterday, he clearly believes that Mark Spencer is someone who is entitled to be in the front line. Some people suggested overall that the reshuffle shows actually it's a reward for people who've been loyal to Boris Johnson rather than, deep strategic thinking about who is best to place to serve the government in these particular roles. But I suggest that we'll probably hear more, I would have thought, in the coming weeks about unease about the moves that have been made yesterday.
Laura, thank you very much. And Mark Spencer has said that the accusation of Islamophobia is false.